So this is part 3 of the supercharged H2 powered crosscarts, street legal crosscart, whatever I'm calling this project. Now, last video we started working on the frame and getting the roll cage kind of started. This video we need to start working on building the actual suspension. Now I kind of wanted to start working on the front suspension, but I think we first need to do the rear because that'll determine how wide this vehicle, how wide the tires are and everything, because we have to have it a certain width for the CV axles to work properly. Then that'll determine how wide the front needs to be. So for the suspension, I think I'm just going to do trailing arms with radius rods. That kind of seems to be the most popular way to do suspension for rear suspension for cross carts, and it's fairly easy to build. Now I do need to add a little bit more tubing to the back of the frame just to make it to where I have more spots to mount the radius rods right here. And I think I'm just going to have some tubing going from this up a little bit, bent in a little bit, then bent a little bit more. Going to this corner, same thing on this side. I also need to make sure that once the frame is all built, that we can still easily remove the engine from the frame. So this is a rough idea on where the bends need to be and how long the tubing needs to be. I don't know, I'm trying to stand back and look at this and it's like, I don't know, do I like that? Does that look cool? Is there going to be room for everything? Yeah, I think this will work. So, for the rear trailing arms, we need to mount a hind joint somewhere along here. Now, I could just simply mount it to this piece of tubing right here, but that's a little bit too low. I kind of want to raise it up a little bit more, but I don't want to have the mounting plate going from the hind joint down here at an angle like this, because that'll create a twisting force on the tubing and everything, and I think that's not going to work. I think a stronger way to do this would be to have a piece of tubing going from here up to this tubing, which is going to be the cross bracing behind the seats, which will strengthen the frame this way, which means we need to get a piece of tubing going from here, from this corner over to that corner, tacked in place. I'm going to bend it a little bit, so therefore it's a little bit further back to make it to where we can lean the seats a little bit further back. Then we can get tubing going from this corner up to this. We don't really need to do the top yet, just do the bottom pieces, just so we have somewhere to mount tubing going from here up to this, to have a spot to mount the hind joints, therefore we can start working on the trailing arms.
could have moved this bar just a little bit further back, but I think it's fine. Just wanted to make sure that there's enough room to be able to change the spark plugs and everything. Yeah, this is definitely way stronger than just taking a piece of plate steel and going down to this tubing down here like that. That would just create too much of a twisting force. Alright, now eventually, we don't have to do it right now, but eventually we will have to have more tubing going to this corner from here to here and from there to up here. Now, what I could do is just have it go like this and like that, which is the strongest way to do it, but I've already done it before, and I'm almost wondering if this would look, because this kind of looks cooler, it looks different, and I haven't done this before, but it would make it to where this tubing right here is trying to be twisted. Worst case, if this vehicle does end up in a crash, it's going to try to twist this tubing, and it's not going to be the strongest way to do it, but I almost think that it may look slightly better and look cooler doing it this way. So, I don't know. Should we do it like this? Or should we just do it the strongest way and do it like this? Alright, so I'm trying to figure out how to bend this piece of tubing. This is going to be the bottom portion of the trailing arm. Now, what I could do is I could bend it pretty much somewhere right here, just at a 7 or 8 degree angle to make it parallel with the tire. And then the tubing would basically be just like this, parallel with the tire, kind of sticking out. And then we just put the heim joint on the end of it for the radius rod, basically right there. But that would make it to where there's a huge gap between the tubing and this plate steel they would have to bridge with a bunch more tubing. And so I had an idea What if I bent the tubing something like this? This would make it to where I can have this part further recessed into the tire. It is going to make it to where mounting the heim joint for the radius rod is going to be a bit more challenging because I have to make sure it'll fit inside the rim and not be too close to the rim, but it's also going to make the radius rods longer, which I think will be better. And it makes it to where there's a lot less gap between this tubing and the plate steel, and it's going to be a little bit easier to bridge that gap. And I think I can just use plate steel instead of a bunch more tubing and plate steel. So I don't know, I kind of like the look of this. I think it looks a little bit cleaner and a little bit better, so I just need to figure out where to put these two bends on this tubing and how much to bend it. So, to be able to mount the heim joints on this side of the trailing arms for the radius rods, I need to cut these at a certain point, which is 3 1/4 inches from this line on the bottom and on the top right here. And then I need to weld a threaded sleeve on the inside of the tubing, so therefore I can thread a bolt in here, and that's how I'm going to mount the heim joint on this side. Now I'm going to use, originally I was going to do the high misalignment spacers that I have, so therefore I can use a 1/2 inch bolt, but that actually makes it to where the bolt head is sticking out a little bit more, and I'm trying to get it to where the heim joint is as far out as possible without getting too close to the inside of the rim. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm not going to use a high misalignment spacers, I'm going to use a 5/8 bolt, and that makes it to where the bolt head doesn't stick out as much, therefore I can make it to where the heim joint is sticking out a little bit further to better line it up with the frame.
So, to be able to weld these in place, I gotta take the tire off, which I spent about 10 minutes getting this perfectly aligned with exactly where this tire needs to be, making sure it's as close as possible to where it needs to be. And I'm gonna mess all that up taking this tire off, so I'm gonna have to do that again once we get these welded in place. Alright, it's only tacked together, so be very careful with it. Try not to break the tacks. There we go. Now, before I drill the holes for these and then tack them in place, let me just put the tire back on and just make sure that they don't hit the tire or anything. Oh yeah, they totally clear the tire. Nice, that clears the tire perfectly. I'm probably going to want to put a bunch of Loctite on these, because if these ever back out, they're just going to scrape the inside of the rim. Alright, now I gotta spend another 45 minutes to an hour getting these tires lined up perfectly again. I think to be able to line up the radius rods, I think I need to get the CV axle level. I think that's gonna make it a lot easier to get the radius rods in the proper angle and everything. Now, for the radius rods, I kind of want to use 1-inch tubing because I think 1¼ tubing is going to be a little bit too much for the radius rods. This stuff is 1¼ inch,
And to do that, all I need to do is just machine these bungs down a little bit, so therefore 1-inch tubing fits on here. Right now these are for 1.25" thick wall tubing. It's not going to take too long to machine these down, but I need to do 8 of them. So I don't know. I think it'll be worth it to be able to use 1-inch tubing for the radius rods. I think it'll look better. I think it'll look better and work better.
Alright, we got the rear suspension all mocked up. Now, this is the reason I wanted to add these 2 extra bends right here to get this tubing just a lot closer to this, to make it a lot easier just to connect this plate to the tubing, and I think it looks a little bit better. Now, when I tacked this onto the tubing, I only tacked it on the back side, so right now I can adjust this a little bit in and out to make sure that when this rear suspension's all welded together, I want to make sure that the rear tires are perfectly parallel with each other and they don't have any toe in or toe out or anything, because once it's all welded together, we kind of can't really adjust that with this kind of suspension, which I don't really think it's, you know, the end of the world. I was trying to figure out originally, like, is there a way I can make it to where I can adjust this, but I don't know, I think it's fine. We just want to make sure that they are perfectly parallel with each other. Now, let me put a straight edge on this right here. I'll first line it up with the frame. Do the same on the other side, then I'll line them up with the hubs just to verify that they're perfectly parallel. Then I can finish tacking it on this side. Then I also need to cut out some more plate steel that gets welded onto the sides right here to strengthen this up a little bit more. Yeah, good thing I double checked that because it was off by almost half an inch. I think where the error came from is because I had to put these at an angle to be able to read this tubing and this, and I don't have this perfectly, I don't have the axles perfectly straight up and down. I think that's where the error came from. So, they are now perfectly parallel with each other. For those who don't know, this is a limited slip differential, so your tires do spin together, but if you just force it, you can counter rotate them. It just kind of takes a lot of force. So we got the rear suspension all mocked up and tacked together. Now, in case some of you guys haven't seen the video of where I built this chain drive differential, this is a limited slip differential off a Mazda RX-7. Because of the engine we're using, this is a Kawasaki Ninja H2 supercharged motorcycle engine that produces 200 plus horsepower. And if I wanted to, which I kind of really want to, I could get this thing to produce up to 250 horsepower, which is going to be insane on a Crosskart, especially a street legal Crosskart. Because of the engine we're using, I really wanted to make sure that we have a good drivetrain. I didn't want to do an open diff. I didn't want to do a spool that's locked, so I chose a limited slip differential. Now, I did want to install the shocks in this video, but I kind of just ran out of time this week. I actually started a small part-time job helping a friend out, clear Hurricane Helene storm debris. So I've been busy with that all week, as well as I'm probably going to be busy with that for the next couple weeks. But it's not a permanent thing. It's kind of just temporary right now. Just doing that for a couple weeks. Now, a couple weeks ago, John from Cars and Cameras reached out to me and invited me to their mini mayhem event at Busco Beach, which definitely looks like a lot of fun. Definitely excited about that. I definitely want to go, and I'm trying to figure out what vehicles to bring. I really want to bring the mini lifted muscle car, really want to bring the mini Baja Bug project. I first have to figure out the overheating issue with that thing, as well as the battery always dying. I also really want to bring the CBR 1000 project, the CBR 1000 buggy. But to do that, I need to get a bigger trailer, which I've been wanting a bigger trailer for a couple years now. I still want to keep the 8x10 trailer that I have. I really like that one, but I also want to get a bigger one, like an 18-foot or a 20-foot trailer, just so I can bring some more vehicles and, you know, not be only limited to bringing one big vehicle. But yeah, really looking forward to that. I think by the time I upload this video, I think that event will be in a week or two. But for me right now, as I'm filming this, that event is not for another 5 or 6 weeks. I'm actually really ahead of schedule between filming and uploading these videos. I haven't even uploaded part 1 of this project yet. I think I upload that next week. So I think by the time I finish part 4 of this project, I will have finally uploaded part 1. Yeah, I'm around a month ahead of schedule between filming and uploading these videos. So anyway, next video of this project, we need to get the front suspension figured out and mocked up and built and everything. I also want to add more tubing to the frame and just, you know, continue working on this thing, and hopefully also install the front shocks and the rear shocks for this project. But I guess for now, I gotta end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video. First load of wood with the new trailer. I don't have the brake controller installed on this truck yet, and this is a really steep neighborhood, so hopefully nothing goes wrong. So as we're working, clearing the bank from all these logs, we look over here and it's like, oh, there's a wildfire. There's 3 of them. There's that one. There's one, you can kind of see through the trees, not really. And then there's one way over there. Awesome. Those are kind of scary close. Finally getting to use my truck as a work truck.